Good morning and welcome back to Morning Express. We are on the way it is and want to continue that discussion. But first, we want to look at a clip where last week, Honorable Eden Duale, who's the National Assembly Majority Leader, made some utterances in Narok that angered one Isaac Ruto, the Governor of Bomet, and also Chair of the Council of Governors. This is what he had to say. Let's listen and then we'll talk. All right, we'll take a look at it later. I understand that clip is being prepared for us. But gentlemen, we know what he said. And he was using the fact that Isaac Ruto has not appeared before the Senate committee to account to or respond to the queries raised by the Auditor General as, you know, the reason why he's pushing for him perhaps not to exhibit or practice double standards by pushing for more money, and yet he has not accounted for the money on his county. I understand you now have that clip, so let's take a listen and then we'll continue.
Mkono moja unasema pesa mashinani, mkono mwingine hutaki tukuulize maswali. Hii pesa si ya mama yako bwana. Hii pesa si ya baba yako. Hii pesa ni ya Wakenya. Na lazima watu waulizwe.
All right, Weda, your thoughts?
I think what Honorable Duale forgets is that in public, the leaders and top leaders in this country is the leader of the majority, one of the biggest democracies in Africa. Now, when he stands to speak against a governor, also in this country, he must remember their leaders first and foremost, their parents second and foremost, and their role models third and foremost. So when he speaks about Baba and Mama and cousin and uncle, that insult is not proper, is not good, especially when he's leader of majority. You know what the votes he got? I think 10% of what Honorable Isaac Ruto got. The more reason why he should be very respectful. As the leader of majority, he's leading everybody. The words he used were very wrong. And then secondly, what he's talking about is irrelevant. The only way to deal with an issue, as I am saying when they talk about pesa mashinani, listen to what they say and then respond to it properly. The way I say, okay, the money you want is okay, but it will lead to raising of taxes. Kenyans will have to pay more, they'll have to suffer more, their food prices will have to go up. That they must tell us is the reality. But going to somebody's mother, somebody says, I think Duale went off board. But I understand that has been his nature, talking recklessly. Where he comes from, also people talk recklessly. And we will pray for him so that he is redeemed.
Okay.
I really think that what Duale said was not in good taste, but at least it gives a reflection of what Jubilee is all about. A government of bigots, a government who believe that, you know, they're there not to manifest the will of the people, but a will of someone I do not understand. You know, this money.
But his argument was that he's trying to push for that. He's talking for the people that you're talking about.
No, I mean, look, Kenyans and the push for pesa mashinani and the referendum course will be decided by the people of Kenya. If Kenyans want more money to be given to the county governments, they will vote yes. If they do not want more money, they'll vote no. I mean, it's that. So you cannot sit as a leader. All you want to do is to facilitate the process of money either being devolved or not being devolved. But just something that Lawyer Weda said that I want to controvert is the fact that more money to the counties does not mean more taxes. What we're saying is all the amount of in the national budget make this particular amount available. Whether it's just 1 million shillings, can we have 40% being to the villages? Does not mean we are taxing more to get more money. That is what they're saying. But for him to come out strongly in the manner that he did come out strongly, just shows you that they don't care. They're out of touch with people, and they think because they're in government, there is leader of majority, he can choose to be uncourteous. To use words that really should not be in public. And, you know, as Lawyer Weda says very well, when you're in public and as a leader, there's what we expect of you.
So in terms of the words
a level of decorum.
We agree that wasn't right. In terms of the heart of the matter, that he has not appeared, although now we know the whole process has been stopped. There was a court order on the same, appearing before the Senate to answer to these queries. He's not done that from the beginning. There were a number of them. I think the Murang'a governor did appear, but the other three had not. Yeah. Do you think that is then a double speak when on one hand you want more money, on the other there's
no? I think the Senate, being idle, are posturing all over. When it comes to accountability, the governor has to account to its assembly. Okay? Its assembly first, then the Auditor General second, then if there are consequences, if there are issues, then the EACC or something. It is not for Senate to say that we understand that you spend 4 million transporting people from Migori to Nairobi to come and give us. No, that's just because they have little work, therefore they're trying to create. To say that it didn't appear, I think is just to divert attention. The accounting process is to the assembly and then by Auditor General. But again, understand, Duale, it's not the first time. There was a time he had a spat against the president and against everybody, say he would resign. So that is his category. We understand him and tolerate him to that extent. So do not read too much about his speech in Narok, because that is characteristic of him. It is within his ilk, and we understand and tolerate. He's done a good job as a majority.
And tolerate and give him the position of majority leader.
Yeah, at times he does a good job. Sometimes he does a good job.
I really think if I do not want to talk about Duale the person. Yes. He's my colleague in the National Assembly, and I think we have a level of respect for each other, the fact that we're in the National Assembly together. But in terms of what he's saying, that the governors have refused to submit to the Senate, I mean, that's a moot issue, because one thing is, yes, there ought to be accountability, but who ought the governors be accountable to? Yes, it's true the National Assembly should be the ones checking, I mean, the county assemblies should be the ones checking the governors, but the current structure of the county assemblies is one that makes it difficult for them to check the governors. So I really think that in our constitutional construct, we really need to look at how do we strengthen the county assembly in a manner that it checks the governor. Because it's true, there are gaps in there, so the governors are prone to misuse funds, but again, the county assembly is not doing very well in terms of checking. So that leaves us with several gaps in the constitutional order, which ought to be addressed.
In fact, is coming exactly to what I have been saying.
Yes.
That instead of jumping today, as court is trying us to jump to amend the constitution, to do a Raila amendment, then there will be a President Uhuru amendment, followed by Mheshimiwa Ruto's amendment, then Musalia's amendment. Let us allow the constitution to settle. 2, 3, 4 elections. Let us look at the gaps, what needs to be addressed. Let us note them down, okay? Then let us have a constitutional conference after about 15, 20 years. We look at all these gaps, then we re-amend together. We are not going to do this one for Raila. Then I think after another 5 years, another one for President Uhuru. Then after that, another one for Ruto. So you can see, you agree that we need to let the constitution settle.
What the lawyer is missing out is this one. Before court got into this referendum issue, court had actually asked that let's talk about a few things about the constitution. Ours was not just about waking up and saying we want a referendum. It was one, there are things that really need to be discussed. And you know, a constitutional conference does not have to wait for 5 years. It is one thing that we could have done in year one. We are seeing the implementation is not going in place. There are a few gaps in this particular constitution. How do you address? I mean, look, everyone else voting for the constitution agreed. Some of them said, let's amend before we pass. Some said, let's pass, then we amend. So we are all in agreement that there are a few gaps. But I really think that Jubilee lost it when they thought that
they refused to dialogue.
When they refused to listen to engagements in terms of, there would have been a better way of really saying, what is not working in this constitution? How can we better deal with it? But when they refused, the power ultimately, there's nothing like being too early. I mean, look, how long did it take to amend the American Constitution? It didn't take 5 years. I mean, it was amended in the first few months of its implementation.
But they did not go to a referendum to amend it.
Exactly. Now you want to understand something, that we don't even need a referendum to amend this particular constitution.
So are you saying then you're
no, I will explain to you. I'll explain to you that particular argument. Listen, if, for example, the National Assembly and the Senate will agree with what CORD is saying, if they say, for example, that needs to be more
they've set up a team of 11 to look at other options, other avenues. No,
let me explain to you. You know, the way the constitution is going to be amended via the referendum under Article 257 presupposes that first it has to be passed by both houses of parliament. the National Assembly and the Senate. If the two pass, then there's even no need for a referendum. But should they refuse, like they're always refusing, then we'll go to the people, and the people will say, yes, we agree that what court is saying is legitimate, but if at all the National Assembly and the Senate agree, then we don't need a referendum. The amendments will be made without a referendum. Is that not so, Weda?
Yeah, that's the correct position, but then 1 year. 1 year. Even if you marry a lady, let me use the word a lady, 1 year you say, wapi mtoto? But you go home. Surely 1 year is too early. No, but let us do 2-3 elections.
But listen, we've seen that the county government is not working in the proper sense. We need to give it
It will work.
It will work.
Problems.
It will work. Yes, it has teething problems, but those teething problems need to be sorted out before we lose billions of shillings in 5 years.
So what you're saying, because Jubilee has said it's setting up this 11-member team of experts to be able to look at other ways to still sort out the issues that have been raised for a referendum. Are you saying if that was handled, you'd not go to a referendum?
You know, one of the things that has happened, let me tell you, Parliament in this last budget put in an 80 million shillings budget. That I am sure about. Reason being, there was a need for an audit in terms of the wage bill and also in terms of the cost of implementing the constitution. That particular 80 million shillings budget was passed by Parliament. What Jubilee ought to have done is, for example, fast-tracked that particular audit of the constitution to show us what has gone wrong, what has gone right. As far as I know, 80 million shillings was passed. We've never seen any review taking place. So that, one, if at all a review would have been done properly by the National Assembly, if things were moving on properly in the National Assembly, then CORD actually would have been wrong in calling for referendum.
So in the event that happens now, would CORD
But
call
that
it
is why CORD was calling for dialogue even in the first instance. That
now that Jubilee has learned all those lessons you've now highlighted, and now they say, okay,
you cannot trust Jubilee until they give effect to whatever they've said. You cannot take the word to the bank.
It happens.
You cannot take anyone's word to the bank here. This is a government, I told you before, it's Cornish, and you cannot trust it until it gives effect to its word.
Before we move away from that topic, because you've brought about the issue of referendum is here now, where is CORD now in their push? Because the governors launched the signature collection.
Yes.
Where is CORD?
CORD so far, Okoa Kenya movement has gotten more than 3 million signatures. And we've agreed that we'll have a draft bill before the month of December. Ordinarily, you know...
That's a while.
I mean, even if at all we did it tomorrow, we cannot have a referendum before the next budget. Because one, we are also true to the budgetary issues. And you know, we really want a lot of time to reduce our thoughts, the 7 thoughts that we really want to reduce into a proper constitutional bill. So that, I mean, drafting a constitutional amendment is not one of those things you want to do early in the morning and then in the afternoon you change your mind about it. It has to be sacrosanct, it has to be thought through. And that is why CORD is saying, we've already gotten signatures, more than the 1 million that the Constitution anticipates. We have 3 million. So what do we proceed? We're proceeding introducing our thoughts into a draft bill. And that draft bill, of course, then will be subjected to the IABC, which then would give it to the relevant authorities for purposes of voting for it.
Do you think there should have been a law, very quickly, on the signature collection that clarifies that these signatures need to be, there needs to be evidence that they were collected from all the regions in the country? Because as we stand, it could be, one could go to their stronghold and get all the signatures they need. Is there that criteria?
The way the Constitution is, you can collect 1 million signatures.
Okay. And from just one region?
From one region. But you collect the signatures against a bill.
I disagree.
You tell them, let me just finish. Let me just finish. You tell them, we would like to amend the Constitution so that we provide a minimum money of 45%. What is your take on it? Then you say, I support, go ahead. You don't work with a blank sheet of paper.
It
has Wanjiku.
It has suggestions.
There are no suggestions. You meet Wanjiku in a corner, then
I've seen the form.
Then you tell Wanjiku it will be 45%. Then you sign. Then after they reduce it,
the things you signed
the things you signed are not there anymore. That is another way. In other words, we call it fraud.
But Kanini Kegas moved to court and it was thrown out.
His
argument was that there should have been clarity of questions.
Let me explain to Lawyer Weda. I think he doesn't understand.
Not question. There should be a bill.
No. Listen to me, Weda. When you leave this session, go read Article 257.3 of the Constitution. It says the promoters of an amendment through the referendum could come up with general ideas. This is 257.3 of the Constitution. After which they can then reduce it to a bill, to 57.4 of the Constitution. So there is nowhere that is written that you must have a bill first before getting signatures. The thing is, you must have general ideas. Look at the provision of the Constitution.
So they've said after general ideas, you can collect signatures?
Yes, to 57.3. I mean, that's what I'm telling you. I mean, look at it. You're a lawyer. Go and read it right now after this. Just hold. Yes. It's nothing about intimidation. 6 points. Court has raised IBC issues, election issues. 2, court has raised more money to the governors. The court has raised the issue of the National Land Commission. Those issues under Article 57.3 of the Constitution fall under the general idea regime of seeking to move the country to a referendum. Look at it.
Yeah, then on the general ideas, they collect signatures from unsuspecting members of the public.
Not unsuspecting.
Then they will sit and say, now, we want to use these signatures for a totally different question.
No.
One, that is the fraud we are saying.
No.
Please, you do the bill, then you ask the people, this is the bill.
That is not true.
Do you support it? 1 million signatures.
Now I understand that you do not understand the provisions of Article 57.3 of the Constitution. You see, after you've reduced your general thoughts to a bill, then you subject it to county governments. County governments then now vote on the bill. If they do pass it, they bring it to the National Assembly, then the National Assembly transforms the Assembly to the Senate. Just listen first. After that, the bill that you reduced from the general idea is then subjected to the people in a referendum.
Just imagine.
So there are checks and balances, Weda, to avert a situation that you've just highlighted.
No,
yes.
Just assuming I don't understand. And I'm averagely informed about matters of the law, unlike Wanjiku, from whom they are collecting signatures.
Right.
Then they go to Wanjiku with a booklet of ideas. Okay? If you don't like 45%, they tell you no. IEBC.
But his
if you don't like, just listen. Yes. If you don't like IEBC, they tell you Land Commission. In the end, they use all manner of tricks to collect this. And then eventually,
listen.
They now come up with something.
In fact, now, Sophie, I've understood
Jubilee's problem.
I've understood Jubilee's problem because then they choose not to understand the import. Once, you know, when you'll be talking about the National Land Commission, there are articles in the Constitution that talk about the National Land Commission. That is why we're going to reduce the general thoughts on the National Land Commission to a draft bill to strengthen the National Land Commission. There are general thoughts in terms of how do you ensure there's more money to the governors.
All right.
That is what you'll reduce to a bill and ask the people to vote on it.
Okay, gentlemen. You did not answer this one for me, but Neto, I'll put it to you because some have raised the question of these signatures and from where they've been collected. Do you think the law should be pronounced and clear on the fact that it should be from all regions, that everybody should be consulted on this, because this will affect everybody?
I mean, I think that the ultimate verdict remains with the Kenyan people when they vote on the referendum. Okay. Because
so it doesn't matter how. It doesn't matter
whether you collect them only from Coast or from Nairobi only. So long as you get 1 million legitimate signatures of people who are voters, that is good enough to move the process of a referendum. So that the people of Kenya, ultimately, all of them will have a chance at the referendum.
Let's move away.
Just the question that they'd have to sort out. The IEBC or the country still does not have a bank of signatures. So whatever they are collecting,
IEBC will go through them.
We will find out whether they are genuine signatures or there's no bank of signatures.
You cannot be such fraudulent in your thoughts. Listen, you know, it's very
But it's the same IEBC you want disbanded.
That is another story. In fact, that's the talk of a whole morning show. So let's not go there first. But let's deal with what is said. IEBC is going to verify the signatures based on the voter register. I mean,
there are no signatures on the register.
No, just listen. That one, are you a registered voter? Yes. So if I told you you're a registered voter, then at least your name, you're allegedly signed, then it's upon the voter then to controvert.
Our time is running out, so I still want us to talk about other issues, though. Yes. Let's talk about Migori. I think we have pictures from what happened with the apology. About 500 or 600, residents of Migori, accompanied by the governor and other leaders. And we understand 4 million spent for that apology. Was that in...
I think spending, let's start from the money, spending 4 million, if at all. I trust they didn't spend. I hope they didn't. If they did that was theft. Those people could have been transported 500,000 shillings. You borrow those buses from our local secondary schools. They come, you fuel the buses. Then these people, you eat what I would call Induo sekonja or something like that, and then soda. And then, so that 4 million.
If it's true, yes.
If it is true, it is theft, and we will have to talk about it.
But coming out to apologize?
But coming out to apologize, what is critical is the gesture. This is, you look at history. The relationship between the Luo people and the Kikuyu people is always hot and cold. There are the deep-seated issues among them. You are born in lowland, and you are told stories that you live with. So, and that's vice versa even in Kukuland. So when president comes to Migori and people shout the way they did, people do what they did, you could have seen that even a whole governor taking a whole page to further fan disagreements and so on. So what is important is the gesture by the elders coming to say, Your Excellency, whatever happened, we as the elders of this community, as these people, we are sorry about it. The gesture is good, is laudable. Okay, the expenses, we will look into it. If it was too much, then we will say why. But the gesture, I congratulate the people of Migori. I also congratulate the president for showing restraint at that time.
And also for announcing the release of those who were arrested over that.
Had he actually misreacted, and there would have been a death, there were people who are ready to say, that is what happened in Kisumu. Now you have taken it to Migori. He showed restraint as a real commander-in-chief. And then secondly, allowing these people who are arrested to be released was another good gesture. We need to heal and move forward.
I really think that Migori, on the heckling that happened, was a really sad thing. It is a dark shadow, and I think almost all leaders in Nyanza came up strong to condemn the act. And I think for the first time, you know, in a long time, you saw members of CORD and Jubilee addressing joint press conferences to say that Migori was a bad thing. Apology was in order. But whether it was to bring in 4 villagers from old Migori to have them eating scones, like Weda says, I don't know if that was the best way to apologize, but I really think that an apology was in order. The process and the manner might be questionable, but I really think it was in order to apologize. And I think we did show recompense as leaders from Nyanza that that's not what we expected. I mean, the president needs to be given respect and dignity that he deserves and the records. And I really think that we should be, hopefully, it was shameful that that happened in Migori.
Yeah, because the president in his speech was saying, we already know who did this. It's not the people of Migori, it's a few politicians. Do you think it was organized by some politicians?
Could be, yes. I mean, Migori, let me explain to you, the president I think even like we've said before that it was not, the heckling was not meant at the president. The president was just caught in the crossfires of Migori politics. Migori, as you still speak, is still unstable. And Governor Obado knows for a fact that Migori's town is not one of his strongholds. I mean, you see, if you trace the president's visit to Migori, he got very good reception in places like Weda, where the governor enjoys massive support. Migori's town has never been the governor's stronghold. But the other thing also, the governor was caught in with border riders imposing taxes and all these kind of things. So there is a lot of politics that was going on. The president was caught in the crossfires, and that is why, as leaders from Nyanza, we said we didn't expect that to happen. We apologize, and I really we had to show sufficient recompense, and I think it was laudable. Let's
move to South Sudan and the ban against foreign workers and then rescinding of the same. When you first heard about that, what did you think about it?
You feel the pain. The pain that you feel is a country having fought all these years and then being cast with leaders who lack vision, who lack dreams, who do not know where they are going. The Bible says, for lack of vision, people perish. The people of Southern Sudan will perish because the leaders, Salva Kiir and the ilk, and Riek Machar and the platoon do not seem to have a vision. They do not know where they are going and where they are coming from. These foreigners that they are talking about are there to train their people. They went there because they could not do these things. These foreigners are investors. I know Kenya Commercial Bank has invested massively. I know in Kenya, there's I've forgotten his name, as a big hotel there. I know investors are there. And it is the investors that grow a country. Now, when you see a leader like Salva Kiir, one day waking up and sacking his deputy without knowing the consequences, and then they start butchering each other, they lack vision, and it is sad. When that happened, I said, Mandela, where are you? Why did you die? Guyana, South Sudan did not have even a quarter Mandela, or 1% of a Mandela to steer that nation. It's a rich nation, very rich, good climate, minerals, oil. What is lacking is vision. So sending away people, including Kenyans, Yet their leaders are eating cakes here in our big hotels. If we did the same, where will they be? All the medicines, all their things passed. I would send a message to Mheshimiwa Salva Kiir and his bandwagon to go back and have a vision to develop the country. They should call President Kagame to teach them something on vision. They should go to Rwanda and see the vision that country has. Small, little resources, but vision. Okay. Something is wrong there.
Yeah. I really think that I would not blame South Sudan for the stand that they took. South Sudan is a little child groping for attention, groping for guidance. I have been sufficiently engaged in South Sudan issues, and I really think, one, IGAD and the East African leaders have not been fair to South Sudan. South Sudan feels hopeless because, one, there's a lot of unemployment. There's a lot of unemployment of the Southern Sudanese people, and there's a lot of things not going on. You see the peace process in Sudan is really frail, and the IGAD leaders are not bothered. So you then get into reactionary tendencies. You do not know who cares for you, who is bothering with you. So if at all East Africans are not going to be bothering with you, then why are they enjoying the wealth of the Sudan? So really, it is an action that was uncalled for, totally, but you would understand where it's coming from. Salva Kiir is someone groping in the dark for sufficient direction, and I really think that East Africa, IGAD, and Africa should actually be fair to South Sudan. It's a nation that needs guidance. It's a nation that needs to be tolerated. It's a nation that needs proper direction, and I really think IGAD and Africa is not doing very well in terms of helping the African people. And you know, what you're going to be watching in South Sudan is a genocide of massive proportions, and then Africa will be waking up and saying, where were we? And it's a shame that, for example, our president, for example, sits at the head of African Union and has not sufficiently helped deal with the issues of South Sudan. And I really think that we should all feel sorry for South Sudan, not because in the manner in which the leaders are doing. Salva Kiir is the best they have in the circumstances, and but I really just think it needs to be guided and go in the right proper way. It's
the third time this is happening, they're issuing such a directive, but from them, and you say we should be feeling sorry for them, they feel exploited by the rest of the world and everybody that's in there, including the aid workers that have come in to help in. And I was seeing even a cartoon, the rest of the world is painting them as this ungrateful child. We've been trying to help you get on your feet, and here you are, throwing everybody out just, a few years in.
I think if they feel, I don't know whether we should go there and babysit South Sudan. When they had war, Kenya was there to ensure they had peace. There was the peace process, the signing, and we've been moving together. For the country now to grow is about business, it's about growing the economy, it's about investment. It's not about policy. The policy is for government. But do you feel there's an unfair,
there are not considerations for the South Sudanese in these positions that they could work in as well? As you invest, include the people there to work, so that you don't get to that situation of
that's
desperation.
Okay, but look at it in terms of education. You have to grow. For instance, if KCB goes there, and KCB, Kenya Commercial Bank, is there, you can't take a Southern Sudanese and tell him, be the bank manager without the experience, because now you are driven by profit. What the policy that they should have done, that even South Africans did for the blacks, they didn't go and tell the Wazungus, okay, now the Wazungus go back. They said, okay, go to school, and then absorb these people so that they grow. After a given time, let's say 10, 20 years, all these kind of jobs, this level will be reserved for locals. We will now not be renewing your work permit. We will not do it. This one will not give you a work permit. This one will do. Even here in Kenya, it works that way. You come in, if you want to be at a level, you are not given a work permit. It is not done where you wake up and tell people, get out. How do you tell doctors? Even in Kenya, we have been independent for 50 years. We still don't have enough doctors. We still don't have enough nurses. What about Southern Sudan without a proper university? We don't have professors in our schools, full professors, because they leave. Now, what about Southern Sudan, which is war? They don't have proper roads. Then you tell the professionals, the consultants, get out. When you tell the doctors to get out, who do you want to have? You have your cousin.
These same professionals and experts coming from outside could very easily exploit how we're not seeing many of them taking that opportunity to, mentor, to get them in.
You don't mentor people. People go to school by now. Look at the way South Africa did it. South Africa took their people to train. You take people to training. If you want medical doctors, for instance, the government should have gone out deliberately to say, look, we want to train 500 doctors every year. They come to Kenya and say, please give us some scholarships, give us places. Now, when the doctors are trained, you take them back. You don't just say, we need our own. And when you say, where is our own?
I agree with what Weda is saying, that South Sudan should train its own. Yes. But that needs a proper legal regime. And as you know, South Sudan is still living on a transitional constitution that expires next year. So that is why I'm really saying that their actions are you can understand, if at all you've engaged with them sufficiently, that you can understand why the president is feeling bitter. No one is helping them move forward. Everyone wants to go and make, I'm told people make a lot of money in South Sudan. I've never been there. So you go there, make a lot of money in South Sudan at the expense of the South Sudanese. I really think it's also
leading in corruption. The chairman of corruption.
I really think it's unfair. So what we need to do is, one, yes, tell South Sudan, there are good examples in Africa. South Africa, like you mentioned it, Rwanda was a good example. But for them to get to the Rwandese level, they need to be helped and to institutionalize that.
A visionary leader.
They also need a proper legal regime, which IGAD and African Union is failing and is not helping them with. And that is why I really think that I can understand where they're coming from.
Okay, we'll end it there. Thank you very much, Agostinho Neto, Member of Parliament Ndiwa, and lawyer.
Thank you, Mheshimiwa. This uniform is nice for our side. We'll welcome you.
It cannot be. This is just the Kenyan dress. What's wrong with you? This is the Kenyan flag. TNA is never good. This is the Kenyan flag. What's wrong with you?
That's what TNA color.
No, this is the Kenyan flag.
I agree, but it's good.
You like it. So next week you'll come wearing the same.
I can donate to you material.
No, I want to welcome you on our side.
I do not want rudderless. Jubilee's rudderless, you know it, and so I have no business doing that.
Well, thank you for joining us, and thank you for watching, and all of your feedback. We'll be sampling some of it later on. We take a break. When we return, we'll meet the Dandora Music, the youngest Kenyan music group to become Vivo Verified. That's coming up shortly.